Okay. Welcome, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Today is February 16th. Welcome to our regularly scheduled meeting. It is a little past 7, so we'll just go ahead and get started. If everyone could please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Superintendent Tager, are there any adjustments to the agenda?
No adjustments, Chair.
Perfect. Okay. And public comments, just a quick reminder, members of the public may address the school committee for up to 3 minutes on school and education matters. Complaints or allegations concerning specific employees or students will not be allowed, but will be addressed through established policies and procedures. Public comments shall be directed to the school committee and be brief and not repetitive. Before starting, please state your name and place of residence. Do we have any public comments today? Oh, yes, please come up. Please state your name and place of residence.
Hi, my name is Carrie Smith and I live at 26 Lane Street in Bangor. And I had committed to be the voice of parents and students this year. So one of the big questions, of course, is masks. Everybody's kind of revisiting masks, when we might lift them, when we might make them just choice. So I wanted to know what's the ultimate decision that you're going to base that on, where we do have local control on that level, what it is you're going to base your decision on. We do know that most of our kids only wear masks now in school, maybe a doctor's appointment, a dentist appointment. They're involved in lots of activities where they don't wear masks, very close contact. A lot of them thought if they got vaccinated, they wouldn't have to wear a mask because science said that initially, and then science changed. We do know that the likelihood that the real science for all of this is probably years away before we really know more about this virus and if these masks really do much of anything. My son was watching, excuse me, a news story with me the other morning, and it was a parent in, I think, Rhode Island. And she was fighting for no masks because her son has really bad asthma. Anyway, the reporter came back on and it said that the school looked like they were going to lift their mask mandate within a month. So he asked me, Mom, does that mean I don't have to wear a mask at school? And I said, no, they live in a different state. And he said, why is COVID different in different states? I mean, I just don't know what to say to these kids anymore, you know. And then obviously we all saw the Super Bowl with the mask mandate, 70,000 people, almost no one had them on. So our kids are starting to feel almost like they're being held down. They wonder why they're the last ones to be able to show their smiles to their teachers. And it's hard to explain why Maine is different than soon to be Massachusetts, Connecticut, you know, lots of other places. So I hope we can use our local power to maybe use some common sense. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Any other public comments? I don't think we received any.
No.
Okay. All righty. Thank you. Moving on to superintendent's proposals and updates. We have action items and we do have a public hearing, and I need a motion to open that, please. Okay, Superintendent Tager.
Yes. The public hearing LD 577, an act to increase access to nutritious foods in schools by implementing an after-school food program for at-risk students. A school administrative unit shall participate in the federal child and adult care food program established in 42 United States Code, Section 1766, as a requirement under this paragraph. The commissioner shall assist school administrative units subject to the requirements of this paragraph in developing a plan to participate in the federal child and adult care food program to serve at-risk students who attend after-school programming, and in obtaining federal, state, and private funds to pay for this program. beginning with the 2019-2020 school year, a school administrative unit with at least one public school in which at least 50% of the students qualified for free or reduced price lunch during the preceding school year shall participate in the federal child and adult care food program in accordance with 42 United States Code, Section 1766 during the school year, subject to the provisions of this paragraph. Notwithstanding other provisions of this paragraph, a school administrative unit that is required to operate a federal child and adult care food program may choose not to operate such a program if it is determined by a vote of the governing board of the school administrative unit after notice in a public hearing that operating such a program would be financially or logistically impractical. Okay, are there any comments? Okay, you'll take a motion to go back to close the
Do we need
public
to
hearing.
vote right now?
No, you have to go out first.
Okay. Okay, so can I get a motion to close the public hearing, please?
So moved.
Second.
Okay,
Thank you. I'm recommending that we choose not to operate a federal child and adult care food program as Bangor has already established a partnership with the Good Shepherd Food Bank, which provides the requirements stated in LD 577.
can I get a motion? Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Motion passes 7-0. Thank you.
Okay, next we have informational items. We have a summary of title programs.
Thank you, Chair. Assistant Superintendent Kathy Harris Smedberg will provide a summary of the title programs.
Just use the arrow keys from there.
Sorry, space bar.
Yeah,
Just-
no problem.
Okay. This is why I'm really glad you came in.
Yeah, a little part I forgot about that one. All right.
Thank you. Good evening. So you had some questions about title programming, and I'm here to help inform you. So there are 3 titles that the Bangor School Department receives. We receive Title 1A, Title 2A, and Title 4A. And you'll notice there's a 3 missing in there, and I'll get to that, but we do not receive any funding for that. Title 1A is authorized under the Elementary and Secondary Schools Act, ESEA. You might have heard about that. It's a federal program and it's authorized every year. Now it's authorized under ESSA. And basically it provides funds to help our lowest achieving students. It is all based upon free and reduced numbers for allocations. Whoops. So funds are just distributed based upon economic need at the federal level, goes to the state, then the state then distributes them to school districts. And again, it's every distribution is based upon free and reduced numbers. I did want to highlight this because recently we've been receiving free lunches. Everybody gets a free lunch. And so a lot of families are not filling out forms, which makes our free and reduced numbers less. And then to make it a little more difficult is minimum wage and stuff have been increased, but the levels to qualify for free and reduced have not changed. So people are making a little bit more, but they're getting actually less benefit from things like free or reduced lunch. So it's really important that people fill out those forms though, because it really does help us in what our allocations can be. Once the funds are distributed to a school district, regardless of incomes, to any student may access those services. So you don't have to be a child that gets free or reduced meals in order to qualify or get services in Title I. Right now, the following schools are listed. We have Abraham Lincoln Down East, Fairmount, 14th Street, Mary Snow, and Vine Street as Title I schools, but you'll see asterisks next to 2. And that's because next year, those schools will not have Title I services because their free and reduced numbers have dropped to the point where we can't support them anymore based upon the funding. So what do they pay for? It pays for supplemental services in math and reading. We use them for K through 5. They can be used K through 12, but we have dedicated it to our youngest learners, understanding that if students don't have these skills, then typically they will stay behind for a long time. It's very hard to catch up if they are not at reading level by 3rd grade. Math skills, you'll find numeracy and things like that have very similar findings. Funding in Bangor primarily pays for salaries and benefits. We have 6.8 Title I teachers, we have 5 literacy coaches, and we have 3 title educational technicians. These are all people that are helping support supplemental services for our students. To be a title school, you can either be school-wide or you can be targeted assistant. All of our schools are school-wide. And what this means is that there's some flexibility. You can flex in and out based upon the skills that you need in a school-wide program. If you're a targeted assistant, you have to do a universal testing. Everybody tests, and the lowest performing students are the only ones that would be able to get title services. So you may have a struggle with maybe multiplication, but once you get that, then you move on and you're fine with division. In a school-wide, you can help that child. In a targeted assistance, it's, again, it goes back to where you scored on that test. So school-wide is way better. We're required to provide services for private schools. This is one of the questions that came up that are situated in Bangor. So we do have some schools. We have All Saints Catholic School, Bangor Christian, and Stillwater Academy. They are the 3 ones that sign the agreements that they will follow what needs to be done. We have other private schools that do not get any allocation, but they do not commit to provide following the purposes that we have. So, and it's a choice. Private schools can say, yes, we want to, or no, we don't want to. It's based upon the number of low-income students that attend that private school. Now, this is something that's a little bit tricky, that these students may be from other towns, but because they are attending the school within the community that the school is situated, then those are the numbers that are counted towards their low-income students. Consultation is required, so I meet regularly with all of these schools. We have to develop a plan, what they're going to do with the funding. And we provide the Title I teacher that provides services to these schools. This is the breakdown of the allocations. So Bangor gets about $1.6 million, All Saints 17.5, Bangor Christian a little over 24,000, Stillwater Academy gets about 7,000 for a total of $1.6 million. I'm sorry, I could go back. Are there any questions? Do you want me to stop between titles or just go through the whole thing?
Thank you. How many of those 3 non-Bangor schools that are giving this allotment of money are Bangor, would be at Bangor schools? Or are they at, like, what's that percentage? That they're coming from different towns?
They're
versus-
coming from all over. I mean, they pull from a wide range of communities, and I don't know how many Bangor students are at them.
Okay.
I could find out.
That's okay. I'm just like, is it the majority of those
I-
Bangor funds going to non-Bangor students?
I really don't know.
Thanks.
Good question, though. I would suspect not, because I do know there are people that drive for many miles to go to some of these schools, but I don't know. All right, Title II, again, is a federally funded program. It's based to provide financial assistance for those to improve the skills of teachers and principals. And it's supposed to improve by improving the teachers and principals, you're improving the quality of education for the students. And again, these funds are based upon socioeconomic need from the federal government, from the state government. And then once they come to the school, there are teachers that, if they're not serving in low socioeconomic schools, can access those funds. In Bangor, we use them to reduce classroom sizes. So, for example, we use our Title II allocation for 2 additional teachers at the Down East School so that their class sizes will be a bit smaller, because we have found that there are more needs at that particular school, and lower class size numbers, we hope, help. The private schools they don't have that option to use it for that purpose. They can only use it for professional development. So they'll use it for various trainings that they have based upon the consultation that they have with me and the needs of what their student data says. So every professional development opportunity has to be tied to some sort of school student data. And the non-public schools are all the same with the addition of John Baptist. John Baptist would probably like to get Title I funding, but we do not provide Title I funding for our high school. So if we don't provide it for a certain grade level, then other schools cannot access it for that. Since we only provide for K through 5, then only they may use it for K through 5 purposes themselves. The allocations, I'm not going to read them for you, you can read them yourself, but you can see that we get almost $200,000, and then it's broken down again based upon the number of students who qualify for free or reduced lunches at those schools. Give you just a sec to look at. And
Any questions? This one? So, yes, Member Mundell.
Yeah, is it typical for school districts to only allocate funding to K through 5 schools for the title?
it really
program?
varies. It's pretty typical for them to keep it within the K to 8 range. And it's often, sometimes they'll keep it even down at the very lowest, the primary grades, because that's where the foundational skills are. But some of like the really small schools, like they might have only one school for K through 12, then they will make it a K through 12 school. I can't think of very many schools in Maine that have it in the high school. Yeah. Okay. Title IV is funding provided for student support and academic enrichment. The part of this, though, is, and again, it's all based upon the same algorithms, based upon your levels of socioeconomic need. But you have to have projects in 3 content areas. It's to be to provide well-rounded education for all students, improve conditions for student learning, and improve the use of technology to improve academic achievement and digital learning of all students. Because we only get, I'm just going to sit here, about $177,000, and then we have to divide it with all those other schools, you are able to move these funds to a different title program. So Bangor School Department has chosen to move it to Title I so that we are able to provide the services that we have to help students directly. If you think about having to do 3 different projects with that amount of funding, I think you would find that it really wouldn't have a huge cost benefit to what we're doing, hence why we put it into our title services. And so because we put it in title, most of it goes towards salary and benefits of teachers. And this is the total funding that we get. And again, that's broken up based upon those numbers of students. So Bangor doesn't get that entire amount. Questions on 4? All right, title reports, all that is done through my office, the Office of the Assistant Superintendent. We have annual reporting. There are annual applications that I have to file. There are monthly monitoring of fund distribution, fund disbursement. And the business office is very active in this too, because there's a lot of expenditures. Program titles that we don't get to, you might have heard of, are Title III, and that's for our English language learners. And this is kind of a tricky one because I keep saying, why come we're not getting funding? Because we're increasing our numbers and the number keeps changing. So about 5 years ago, it was 45 students and now it's up to 75 students. And we always just seem to be, under getting that. The way that Title III works is that the state each year determines the number of students that you have to have. And then you have to be able to receive at least $10,000 worth of funding for that. Bangor still we're not able to qualify that. And then the other funding that you may hear a lot of in Maine is Title V, and that is to help address the needs of rural schools. And even though Bangor, believe it or not, is still considered a rural school federally, in Maine it is not. And these are for schools that might, they're particularly really small schools in very rural areas, and they might get like $50,000, but it's not enough to pay for a title program or something like that. So these are additional funds to boost that so they can actually get more services to help their children. And these are my resources. And I didn't know if you had any further questions.
Member Sixers.
So I remember the last time that we received this presentation, and Dr. Webb was sharing a story about how the Title II funds that goes for professional development, that she was arguing with another school district who wanted to go to a football game in Boston using those funds because he was a football coach. And she was like, yeah, we don't like, and she's, I fought with like, no, we will not accept that. And I'm assuming that that is still the same.
So actually, they've really tightened up what you can use Title II funds for now. The class size reduction has actually been kind of grandfathered in. Every year I have to prove that that's a need, because typically those funds have gone to either Down East, Vine, or Fairmount because of the high needs and the high socioeconomic help that is there, or the students need, that I've been able to keep that going. It used to be that it just used to be any professional development. And now, like I said, all of those professional development offerings have to be tied back to a student learning goal. So I had a recent request from a private school saying, could a teacher attend this course? And I had to say, well, how does this apply to the goals that you have set for your students? And if it's not set, if they can't make that connection, then it won't cover those PD opportunities. I know a lot of things they also will say, well, like, can school counselors or nurses or something like that take advantage of these funds? They cannot. Again, it could only be teachers or principals. I couldn't pay for any of my professional development with that. I will say we do pay for a little bit of professional development. Our literacy coaches are part of the UMaine Literacy Cooperative, and there's a fee that goes along with that. It does pay for that. My feeling is that because we have those coaches working directly with teachers and helping our students with those needs, that would be a fair thing for it to pay for professional development. And it pays for our reading recovery training. Yes.
Member Surratt.
First, thanks for the report. My question is about a comment. I just wanted to be clear. You said that return rates for the Title I, the return rates on the paperwork for free and reduced lunch is declining. That it's becoming harder and harder to get the paperwork back.
It is becoming harder. I will say, I've got to give the principals a lot of kudos. They really beat the bushes to get materials back. And I think what's happening though, is there are a lot of things in play. Like I said, the federal limits of what can qualify you has not changed. So if you're making minimum wage now, you might actually not qualify for getting free or reduced lunch. They're really focusing just upon free levels now. But what happens is throughout the year, numbers flex. So new people coming in, do they get those forms back? Believe it or not, a few kids can make a big difference, especially in a smaller school. But I just kind of put it out there because it's like, please send them back, because people don't really have the impetus to do it because they can already get free lunch. Everybody gets a free lunch.
Right. No, and and if you don't hit the 40% threshold, all the money goes away, correct?
Well, it goes away for that school. Yes. Yes.
I mean, obviously I don't have the answers right this moment, or none of us have the answers right this moment, but I just wonder, how can we incentivize those parents to fill that paperwork out? I think that's an important question. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a quick question. Back to the principals, with the professional development, what does that exactly entail? Because there's a lot of research about principal burnout, and I know the Maine Principals Association does a lot, but does that cover that part of it?
Well, it could. The private schools use it for that. Like I said, we use our funding for class size reduction primarily. But it could be the form of tuition for university courses. It could be attending workshops. It could be bringing in somebody that would help to address a need that would help principals. It varies based upon what they see the student needs for.
Okay, And Bangor doesn't use the title funds, but we use other.
We do. We have tuition reimbursement for principals, just like we do with teachers. I mean, they have the same benefits that the teacher would have. So they're able to attend conferences and workshops. They're able to take coursework. We have 3 principals right now that are working on their doctoral degrees. So, yeah, woo-hoo. And then I think even for the principals who are not in cohorts, you'll find that they're doing a lot of learning.
Good, good. Okay, just wanted to make sure that that support was there.
It is,
Thank you.
or I
so
think
much.
it is.
Okay, I think that's it. Thank you so much.
All
Great
right.
presentation. So next we have special education update.
Yes, Director of Pupil Services, Christy Babin, will update the Committee on Special Education.
Easier than last time. So you should be able- Yeah, space bar right.
Okay, perfect. Good evening. I'm pretty excited for this presentation because special education is a passion of mine and has been since I started in Bangor as a pre-K teacher a long time ago. So I have the perspective in the district from entering students coming into kindergarten, working as the assistant director and supporting the students who are out of district, private school students, and then my experience at the regional program supporting those students in a needy program. So with the PowerPoint, you have 3 documents that I'm going to reference throughout the PowerPoint. This is more of a little bit of background on special education for you that I'll go through. So the timeline for special education, I just think that's important for people to have an understanding and perspective of when special education started in the nation. So in 1964, Congress passed the Civil Rights Act, and that was the act that ended segregation in public places and banned employment discrimination on the basis of race, color, religion, sex, and national origin. Based on that, in 1973, we had the Rehabilitation Act, which gave us Section 504 for students in the public school setting. And that has been reorganized under ADA in 1992 and amended again in 2008. So I'm just highlighting those areas for you. And then in 1975, it was Public Law 94-142, the Education for All Handicapped Children Act, and that's a landmark law for us as a country. And that has been changed. But the purpose of it back in 1975 was to ensure that all children had free, appropriate public education, which we refer to as FAPE in special education. That's what we do. That has been reauthorized over time. In 1986, it was reauthorized addressing early intervention for birth to 5. It was reauthorized again, and the name of the law changed in 1990 from the Education for All Handicapped Children Act to Individuals with Disabilities Act, which is IDEA, which is what we reference at this point in time currently. It was reauthorized in 2004. And those are the current laws. There are times when the National Department of Education releases regulations that we have to follow, but the reauthorization of 2004 is the law that is enabled right now that we have to follow. And that tells us that we have to follow the laws. And in the state of Maine, it is the Maine Unified Special Education Regulations. It's called MUSER Chapter 101. It's a notebook that I keep on my desk. I have it on my desktop. I reference it daily. Working throughout the district to make sure that we as a district are following the laws that we need to. It is a law that is for children birth to 22 who have disabilities, that we can't exclude benefits or services to which they're entitled to under IDEA. The Department of Education at the state level has a responsibility to make sure that we're implementing special education in the manner that we should be. And they come in and do an audit anywhere from 3 to 5 years. The Bangor School Department this school year is in an audit year, where the Maine Department of Education is auditing our special education paperwork and our services. Every school in the nation has a child find duty. The Bangor School Department has one. We have a policy. It's policy IGBAB, where we have an obligation to find a child who has a disability or a suspected disability. Parents can make referrals, teachers can make referrals, physicians, case managers. There's a referral process that's in all student handbooks, and we also have a policy for it. It's on the website. So it's well known how people can make the referral to special education. What is special education? Special education is specially designed instruction. It's not the general ed curriculum that students are getting within their regular education classroom. It's specially designed at no cost to the parents, and it's to meet the unique needs of a disability. The eligibility for special education, there's 3 prongs to it. And if you look at your packet it's page 2 of your packet for the special education, students have to have one of the 14 disabilities that are outlined in MUSER, chapter 101. The disability has to have an adverse effect on their academic performance, on their ability to access and progress in the curriculum. And because of the disability, they can't progress in the general education setting. They need specially designed instruction from teachers who have special training. That adverse effect, there's a form that the state of Maine has the team complete, and the student has to demonstrate within that form the adverse effect in order for us to qualify a student for special education in the state of Maine. And if you look at your 3rd packet, you're going to see the numbers that I'm going to talk about. Our October 1, 2021 pupil count for special education, we have 745 students identified under IDEA. That's up 88 students compared to 657 students to the October 1 count of last year. It includes, at 745, includes 19 students enrolled in parentally placed private schools, which is an increase of 3 from last year's October 1 count. We have a proportionate amount of funds that we have to provide to the private schools in Bangor to provide special education services. That's why those numbers are on there. A few years ago, it was the sending school where the student lived that was responsible for those services. The law changed, and now the Bangor School Department is responsible if the private school is within the city limits. Out of those 726 identified Bangor resident students, it represents 21.43% of the student enrollment identified as a special education student. That is up from the state average of 19.13. A little bit higher than the state average. An individual education program, when a parent or a teacher or a physician or a case manager makes a referral, we have a legal responsibility to make sure that we come to the table as an IEP team. And that team consists of parents, the student when appropriate, and that's basically a conversation with the parent and a student wanting to be present. We encourage that at the older ages, middle school and up. We do have elementary students that like to participate. A general education teacher has to be present and a special education teacher. And then a representative from the school department who's able to authorize staffing and fiscal funds for the school. I do attend a lot of IEP meetings. It would be unrealistic for me to attend 745 IEP meetings. So the Assistant Director of Pupil Services attends IEP meetings, and then we have IEP coordinators that are authorized for funding. I am the person who does attend the meetings where there might be an out-of-district placement, or there are contentious things that need to be discussed, or if we think the least restrictive environment is going to be a difficult conversation for the team. And I'll get to what that means in just a few minutes. The IEP has to be updated annually, and these are the things that we talk about within the IEP meeting. We definitely talk about the strengths that the child has, because you always want to play off the strengths in any academic setting. But parents are a big piece of that IEP team, and they're allowed to express their concerns at that meeting, and that's where they're heard. And then, of course, all the other pieces of the academic setting that we would discuss. The least restrictive environment is probably one of the biggest conversations that you have to have at an IEP team meeting, because we have a legal responsibility to program for students in the least restrictive environment in order to meet their needs. We have to make sure that we're having deep conversations about what's appropriate for the child and where we're able to program for. We're fortunate in Bangor to have an amazing special education team and department. We're able to program for the majority of our students within our school buildings because we're big and we have qualified people to do that. So currently, 72% of our special education students are receiving their services either in their regular education setting with supports from special education or in a resource room setting. So they're receiving their specially designed instruction and then getting right back into their classroom where they can have access to the general education curriculum. There are 25% of our special education students that receive the majority of their instruction in a self-contained setting, which means they need specially designed instruction the majority of their day to be successful. And those are our needy students, the students that have difficulty with communication, have difficulty with social interactions, have cognitive delays, and are really struggling to maintain within their general education classroom, but are getting to those classrooms for specials and whenever appropriate, and they're able to access their education during those times. Currently, the Bangor School Department has 18 self-contained classrooms to meet the needs of our students. And then 3% of our student population is educated in separate schools. And that would be the Bangor Regional Therapeutic Day Treatment Program. It would be Stillwater Academy. It would be Kids Peace, a higher level of need that we're not able to meet within one of our self-contained programs. We also have a responsibility to support students coming into kindergarten. The state of Maine is one of few states who programs for early intervention outside of the public school setting. That is being discussed at the legislative level, and in the next 3 to 5 years, there will be a plan to bring the 3 to 5-year-olds to the public school setting. But currently, it's underneath Child Development Services. We hold transition meetings every spring. Michelle Gangelfinger, the Assistant Director of Pupil Services, coordinates those meetings with principals so that we're prepared for those students coming into kindergarten who are already identified and they have an individual education plan. They do call them an individual family service plan for the birth to 5. We have been over the last few years coordinating with special purpose private preschools also who can provide services under main care, whether Section 28 or Section 65. Those students may not be identified through Child Development Services and have an individual education plan. They can come to kindergarten the first day and us be unaware of their significant needs. So we've been really working with those special purpose private preschools to have them coordinate with us and get connected with Child Development Services through the summer before kindergarten so that we can meet the needs day one. And that's been a longstanding practice for many years. In 2021-22, which is this current school year, Child Development Services anticipated that we would receive 40 identified students transitioning into kindergarten. 36 of those students did enter, with 16 students requiring a self-contained setting. The needs were pretty significant. And then I just gave you data there over the past couple of years. For the next school year, the 2022 to 2023, we received that preliminary information in December. We're anticipated to receive another 40 students coming into kindergarten, with 21 of them needing a self-contained setting. And the last piece that falls underneath, but really doesn't, but 504s. 504s are under the American with Disabilities Act. We offer 504 to all students, pre-K to 12. Those are the students who may not qualify for special education because they don't require specially designed instruction to access and progress in the curriculum, but they require accommodations or modifications. So we develop a formal plan for them so that they have accommodations and modifications throughout their entire school day so they can access and progress within the curriculum to meet the needs. And then I just gave you some numbers there. Any questions for me? I mean, there's definitely a trend. Our numbers are going up and the intensity of our students is increasing.
So Member Sorg?
Yes, Director Babin, can you explain, I'm looking at other health impaired, and that is quite a significant number we have, 243 students. Can you explain what other health impaired means?
Yep. Other health impairment is, it literally is a health impairment. It could be ADHD, it could be anxiety, it could be a student that has a medical condition where they need specially designed instruction in order to access or progress in the curriculum. It does not involve all of those students who have depression. Sadly, a lot of times us as administrators have to sit at a table, and those students who have depression and even severe anxiety or post-traumatic stress falls under emotional disturbance underneath the regulations. And that's a tough conversation to have.
Thank you.
Other questions, Member Surratt?
Yeah, I had a question similar to Member Sorg on the health impairment. It's certainly the category of exceptionality that's grown the most rapidly. And I really appreciate this longitudinal data, 2000, all the way back to 2013. Can you ballpark what percentage you think of that 243 would be students with an ADHD diagnosis?
I could get the data, but I wouldn't want to generalize it. Yeah,
Okay.
but I could get it.
Member Mundell?
Yeah, so it looks like there are, the trend is going downward in terms of 504 plans for the department. Do you have an explanation for why that is?
I do not. I looked at the data. What I would say is if I go back about 8 years, it has a tendency to go up and down. We ebbs and flows. Mhm.
Yeah, I guess I'm asking because, just wondering if identification has gone down during the pandemic. If that, for some reason, I don't know if the pandemic has anything to do with that.
Yeah, I can look at it. I know in special education, I would say our numbers are up because of the pandemic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I would think. So that's why that was kind of surprising.
Mhm. I've been working closely with the administrators to make sure that we're doing RTI within the school buildings before we make a referral to special education. Because those students who, we went out in that spring, and then if they were remote or hybrid last year, they need the direct instruction in a different way. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're special education students. Yeah.
Follow up. Do you have a sense of how many of these plans, 504s and IEPs, are referred by parents versus identified by teachers?
I
for
do not,
referral?
but we can get that data because we have the referrals.
Okay,
Mhm.
that would be interesting to
Yep.
see. Yeah.
Okay.
And maybe just to look at some equity data there, like are the, more well-off parents with more time and resources more likely to push for a 504 IP
Yeah.
than others?
Yep, I can definitely look at it.
Thank you.
Mhm. Anything else?
Other questions? No? Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I appreciate. Okay, so next we have report of reassignments.
Yes, I'm reporting the following reassignment. Casey Quinn from Special Education, grade 6 through 8, teacher at Bangor Regional Program, to Special Education self-contained teacher at Downey School.
Okay, and next is report of resignations.
I'm reporting the following resignation. Rebecca Bolia, special education teacher, Downey School.
Thank you. Next, we have business action items. Action items, we have the minutes of the regular meeting of February 2, 2022.
I'm recommending approval of the draft minutes of the February 2nd, 2022 regular school committee meeting.
Can I get a motion, please? So moved. And all in favor? Oh, and one abstention.
Motion passes 6-0. Thank you.
And then next we have second reading of policies. We have revised policy GDB-5.
I'm recommending the second reading. I'm recommending the revised policy GDB-5 lunch aid compensation guide. Second reading.
And can I get a motion, please?
Second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Motion passes 7-0. Thank you.
And then next we have revised policy oh, hold on, sorry.
Donations.
Okay, that's at the very end.
Yep.
Yeah. So next we have donations, and I believe Member Surratt is reading those.
To the James F. Dowdy School from the DMT Fund in memory of Danielle Thompson. In memory of Danielle Thompson, a cash donation having a total dollar value of $250. To Bangor High School from the Perloff Foundation, a Vixie Lab Ariad 3D printer having a total dollar value of $319. To William S. Cohen School from Beth and Art Catrides, a cash donation to purchase student water bottles having a total dollar value of $200.
And can I get a motion? Okay, any questions or anything? No, all in favor?
Motion passes 7-0. Thank you.
And next we have introduction items. We have a first reading of policies. We have revised policy ICA.
Do you want to do them both at the same time?
Sure, we can take them both. And then we have also revised policy GDB-7.
I'm recommending first reading of the following revised policies. Revised policy ICA 2022-2023 school calendar. Revised policy GDB 7 support staff compensation guide.
And a motion, please. Any questions or discussion? Okay, and all in favor?
Motion passes 7-0. Thank you.
Okay, next we have committee updates. Any comments or questions from the committee? Member Sprague.
Thank you. Again, feel like I don't know if this is the appropriate time or the end, but I haven't spoken much yet, so I'm going to talk now. Thank you. I just wanted to acknowledge that the chair and I and Superintendent Tager had some excellent tours of several of the schools last week. And I just wanted to thank Mr. Mayo from the Bangor, the regional program, Ms. Vickers from Down East, Mrs. Silk from Vine Street, and Mr. Mooring from Dowdy School. I'm looking forward to the other tours as well. It's really a great experience to be in those schools. We were talking in a pre-council workshop a little bit about the performance in the various schools and also analyzing that in the context of some of the demographic and financial data. And I think Bangor has had several schools win the Blue Ribbon Award, which I'm not taking away anything from those awards. But I think if you were to cross-analyze some of these other schools, including Down East, Vine Street, and the other schools, in the context of the many needs in these schools that the children and families are dealing with, they would actually be among the top performing schools in the community and in the state. Because all these awards, they're really just correlating a lot among other variables. They're correlating the financial wherewithal and the resources of many of the families relative to other schools. So I appreciated the workshop we had earlier, and I really appreciated the tours to get a chance to be in those schools, and look forward to getting to see some of the other schools as well over the next few weeks. So thank you to everybody that gave their time. Down East, we were there at 8:50 right as school was opening. So it was a busy time. So thank you again to Ms. Vickers for showing us around. And lastly, I just want to acknowledge the question from Carrie Smith earlier. I think that's on a lot of people's mind right now, including my own. So I'd love to get an update on that, about what our thought process is on that, because I think there's a lot of interest in that particular question in the community right now. Thank you.
Thank you. And I too would like to echo much gratitude for all the principals that met us and took us around the schools. It was actually personally my first time to enter many of the schools on the west side, living on the east side. So it was wonderful. It was such an honor to go in and see the classrooms, see some of the students and the teachers in action. So it was a highlight of my day, truly, and I can't wait to visit the east side schools as well. So thank you all so much. We appreciate it. And would you like to answer this question?
I could, yes. You asked about masking.
Yes.
Okay. It's becoming a very popular topic, so I would be happy to share. And actually anticipated this. Let me just kind of walk you through a couple of things which may lead to some more questions. As superintendents, we met with Dr. Shaw about approximately 2 weeks ago. And a couple of the things that he said that were of interest is he expected things to stay status quo for February, and actually they've gone probably better than status quo, particularly for the Bangor School Department. Our cases are dropping significantly. He further stated that he expects to see even more improvement in March, and he also said played the other way too and said, you know, you can't count out another variant, but overall, I would say his comments were positive. He also stated just this week that there's a diminishing value in contact tracing and pool testing. Another quote of his that I wrote down is that masking was the first mitigation factor to come and you know, in his opinion, could be the last to leave. I want to also tell you that the Penquist superintendents, I met particularly with all of the superintendents that surround the Bangor School Department yesterday, and we're starting to align. We've realized that there's a statewide sentiment and a national movement on this across parties where people are talking about no longer requiring masks. And for us, as somebody mentioned tonight, Carrie Smith, it was a recommendation. So we do have some local control over that. What I would tell you is Dr. Shaw is meeting again with superintendents tomorrow, and we're meeting again as a Penquist group tomorrow morning as well. And that's about 16 or 17 of us that are in on that meeting. So we would like to try to be aligned. Not to, I can't give anything definite yet, but I would tell you that we're looking at the date of March the 14th, which would be 2 weeks after break. And it would also be significant as it would be the 2-year anniversary of when this pandemic began and schools were closed the spring of 2020. So some superintendents are feeling under more pressure than others, I think. And so we'll see how their committee meeting goes. You all have been so supportive. And I know that what we've done here is this is something that you don't have to vote on. We have our back to school plan and we've continually updated that. So I'm just kind of giving you my thoughts today since the question was asked. We meet with our planning team the first week of March, right after winter break. And Dr. Martin is local and is on our meeting, our group, and that involves parents. We have faculty members, we have nurses, we have principals, we have a variety of people on there. Probably 30 to 40 people normally attend, and school committee members are on that as well. So we'll have that discussion the first week of March. We'll look at our back to school plan. We're already looking at some possible changes in that. So I would tell you that at the March 9th meeting, I feel compelled to talk to you and to let you know what my thoughts are that night. And if we can get to that March 14th date, I would announce it on March the 9th. So I would, that's kind of, and I would also want to clarify too, that there's a lot of different thinking on this particular issue. So as was mentioned tonight by our guest, it would be, if we go to this move, it would be mask optional because people do have varied opinions on this. And I think one thing that we've done that I've learned from our school committee is we respect everyone. And I think that by going mask optional, that would allow that choice. We would continue to keep the pool testing. There are some changes in CDC in regard to quarantines, which we'll be knowing more about in the next couple of days. It'll be written into our standard operating procedure. So I would tell you, I guess, to summarize, I hope to have something definite for you March 19th, and the target date is the 14th. The only other significant date that I have is March 18th ends the federal masking on buses transportation, and whether that gets extended or not, I have no idea. But that's kind of my thinking. And if that leads to more questions, please ask me. But that's what I can tell you that I know as of today.
I just thank you for your openness and willingness to share your thought process on it, and look forward to the meeting on March 9th.
Thank you.
Who knows? Member Sixers.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate that update. Dr. Tager, Superintendent Tager, can you share whether you would consider, or the school would consider, if you've been vaccinated, whether you don't have to wear a mask? I mean, I know that we talked about it a while ago, and it becomes incredibly complicated because we don't want to put our teachers in the position of being police officers, which we know will happen. I was just wondering about that.
I would agree with you that I think it's incredibly complicated, and I don't think that's a road that I personally would go down. I'll listen to our planning committee, but I think that the best that I can see right now would be a mask optional. I think by kind of tipping this tonight to you all, and like things could go really strange over the next, this has been a strange 2 years. So who knows what will happen, but that's my intent today. I think by mentioning it tonight, it does give folks the opportunity if they're still thinking about a vaccine or a booster, those kind of things too. So I thought tonight would be the right time to bring it up.
Member Mandel.
Yeah, I happened to hear Dr. Shaw speak today at his news conference, and it was very hopeful to hear him say that yeah, they're going to look at what happens after vacation to see if there's a surge and kind of go from there. So that was encouraging. I'm just curious, do we know how many of our students and staff are immune compromised or have, are really at risk if they are exposed?
I'd have to
know
look at that. I couldn't
data?
answer that right now.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
We could get back with you on that, but I have no idea right
Curious.
now.
Okay, thank you.
Member Surratt.
Yeah, thanks for that update. And I'm also encouraged by the direction that I think we're going, but with the caveat that, right, things can change. I was wondering, will there be any guidance, or do you think there'll be any guidance on if we do go to mask optional? Do you think there'll be guidance on children that are perhaps have symptoms that may be COVID related, or they have symptoms of cold or flu, or will they be asked to wear masks? Will it be optional for them if they're
I
in the
would
school
tell
environment?
you that we the standard operating procedures are changing by the minute with these conversations with Dr. Shaw, both at a national level and at the main CDC. So we'll have to look at the standard operating procedure, and I'm not trying to deflect on your question, but I think that things are changing rapidly, and I would think that March 9th we could probably review that too, and it would probably have better information that I could give you just out of my thinking process.
Thanks.
Member Luciano.
I just wanted to follow up again with the immunocompromised population in the district. That's both employees, volunteers, students. I want to make sure that we are, of course, mindful of them. A lot of those folks can't get vaccinated, and COVID could be a death sentence for them. And I want to make sure that if we, go optional, that we also have something in place for those students, faculty, volunteers who may require additional accommodations. I don't know if there's a special dispensation in terms of the special ed qualifications or maybe the additional learning support, but again, just something to make sure we're not forgetting about people who we need to protect as a group.
I appreciate the question, and I'll jot it down in my notes. I think that this is slightly related. One of the superintendents that I met with did have a concern with an employee, and they talked about accommodations that could happen within that room for that employee. And we do accommodations all the time for different health needs. So I think that's certainly something we'll look at.
Excellent question. Other questions? Thoughts? Other questions in general? Okay. Moving on to representatives' reports. Does anyone have a report or update? Member Mandel?
Yeah, I just wanted to announce that the new Mental Health Citizens Advisory Committee will be having their inaugural meeting tomorrow at 3:15 via Zoom. And Principal Silk and I and Mr. Tager have come up with a really comprehensive list of members for that group. We've got representation from outside groups like Acadia, PCHC, NAMI. We have our contracted psychologists on board. We've got current students, former students, parents, a member of the academic community who's a developmental psychologist, and a bunch of folks from inside the department. So it's a really exciting group of people. And I think Lynn and I have also talked about, the direction of this group and where we want it to go. And we have some really positive goals for what we want to achieve, pretty focused. And I'm just really excited to get this going.
Wow. That's very exciting. So, and community members are also really excited about it. So thank you. Other updates, Member Sword?
Yes, I just wanted to mention the GABOMA, which is the Greater Bangor Apartment Owners and Managers Association, awarded what they call toolships, and 2 of our Bangor High seniors received them that go out, the 2 of the seniors, they go to UTC. And one was awarded in plumbing toolship, and one was awarded in carpentry and fine woodworking, which you don't see very much anymore, carpentry and fine woodworking. One of the seniors in plumbing was Cameron Lagasse, and the other senior in carpentry and fine woodworking was Braden Karen. He's also a senior at Bangor High. So just wanted us to be aware that a lot of our students at UTC are doing outstanding work and earning all sorts of awards and scholarships.
Thank you, Member Sword. Any others? No? So, and I have a student committee member update from Caroline Sada, who apologizes for not being able to show up because of class tonight. 2 updates. The Bangor debate team competed in the statewide competition last weekend. Morgan Pazinski placed 3rd for the varsity Lincoln Douglas debate, and Elizabeth Shum placed 1st as a state champion for JV Lincoln Douglas debate. Congratulations to everyone. And then the second update that Caroline shared was earlier today, students in the Humanities Academy hosted a Zoom with the former First Lady of Ukraine in collaboration with the RFK Human Rights and Nizami Ganjavi International Center. This was an extraordinary experience to broaden students' perspectives. Students posed many questions about the current events in Ukraine, the First Lady's own experiences and her activism for human rights, and the threat of misinformation campaigns. And I have to let you know that Superintendent Tager and I also jumped in on this Zoom. It was amazing, incredible. And many, many thanks to Dr. Leach, who kicked off this RFK Bangor series with Katerina. I can't even pronounce her last name. So former First Lady, she was incredible. And what was even more amazing is that our students were there. One of our students, Madison Miller, moderated the event, and she was just absolutely incredible. She was just very poised, and excellent questions that she gathered from her peers and students from across the country, as well as RFK partner nations, were able to participate and listen in. So, what an amazing opportunity for our students. And again, I emailed Dr. Leach and really thanked him for this wonderful series. And I think we have 7 more speakers lined up, and they're all just amazing activists and so forth. So how wonderful for our students, very enlightening and, kind of mind opening too. So thank you, Dr. Leach. And any reports, Mr. Taker?
No, ma'am.
Okay. And then we have information items, important dates. We have Wednesday, March 9th, 2022, regular meeting, 7 p.m. here in council chambers. March 23rd, regular meeting, 7 p.m. council chambers. Wednesday, March 30th, 2022, regular meeting, 7 p.m. council chambers. And Wednesday, April 13th, 2022, regular meeting, 7 p.m. here in council chambers. Last opportunity for questions or comments from the committee. Member Stichters.
I just want to let everybody know that I had the opportunity to attend the school play last week, Puffs, and it was fabulous. So I would definitely encourage everybody to go out. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, congratulations are also in order. The girls cheerleading team took first place in states, second place.
I believe.
Well,
second.
second place is still fabulous. That's amazing. And I know we have a bunch of people going to track states as well. So
On Monday.
yes, so it's incredible. So
Yes, lots of, excellence, both, in the classrooms and out of the classrooms. So very, very proud parent and school committee member as well. Other comments, questions? Last chance? No? And next week is school break, winter break, and wishing all families and students a very safe and relaxing week. Adjournment. Can I get a motion, please? All in favor?
Motion passes 7-0.
Does anybody ever vote against that?